back in November, we covered extensively the Jew hunt in Amsterdam, where local Moroccan immigrant, second generation Moroccan immigrants attacked Jews, basically attacked Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. They knew there was a football match. They knew Jews would be there. They live streamed themselves saying, "We're going on a Jew hunt." They actually did that. They physically attacked Jews wherever they could find them, and it was easy to identify. Anybody who's ever been in a major European city during a football match knows that there are usually hundreds, if not thousands, of visiting fans, and they walk around with the shirts and scarves and all they're, you can see that they're fans. So yeah, that was a well-planned attack, physical attack on Jews in the Netherlands. Now, Netherlands is inbred sister to the south. Belgium has their own way of doing things when it comes to Jew hunts, and that is a bit more organized and through the legal system or the legal systems all over the world. So Hind Rajab, the Hind Rajab Foundation was founded in Belgium last year, and their goal, I'm going to read from their About Us in a minute, but their goal is basically, at the moment, to get arrest warrants for IDF soldiers whenever they visit any country for what they call war crimes in Gaza. Now, there was a story about a week ago where in Brazil, an Israeli 21-year-old Israeli tourist, there was an arrest warrant issued against him. He managed to escape the picture, the country, and reading the chat and speaking at the same time. This is not a good idea. And yeah, but they've been doing this since, and I saw a video of him on of the founder of the Hind Rajab Foundation on Democracy Now! That was posted like an hour ago, and and he was saying that they are currently trying to get an Israeli an Israeli official in Italy arrested. So this is what this organization is openly doing and bragging about. It's an organization that plans to have people hunted down if they are Israelis who Hind Rajab Foundation can believe were somehow involved at this point, were somehow involved in Gaza. Their operations could be expanded in the future. I'm gonna uh, get the stuff that they are posting about themselves ready. And James, welcome to the Daily Objective, everybody. James, your initial thoughts on the Hind Rajab Foundation.
What a truly evil organization. The only thing that I can imagine, I mean, obviously they're anti-Semitic on the face of it. Obviously they're eager to persecute Jews wherever they can find them and wherever, and the thing about it, think about it, most Israelis are drafted and have to serve in the military. So when he says we're going after IDF soldiers, what he means to say is we're going after just about every Israeli who's lived in Israel that we can get our hands on anywhere in the world we can find them. And he's not talking about generals. He's not talking about cabinet ministers or Knesset members, much less the prime minister, because obviously it's a joke to think that Israel is engaged in any kind of war crime, as we've covered here very extensively. But obviously, it would be the policymakers that should go after, not IDF soldiers. You wouldn't. Alert countries like Brazil or Italy to the fact that, look, you've got an Israeli here, go after them. Now, the only thing more evil than this organization, more upside down than this organization, perhaps, are those nations that would give it sanction. We know this guy is a terrorist. This guy should be treated like a terrorist. His organization should be treated like a terrorist sympathizing organization. But what gives him life, what gives him oxygen, is that a country like Belgium or a country like Brazil will even give him a hearing. And it's those countries that are displaying their own. And now get this, they're supposed to be the comparatively more, quote, civilized country, you say, than Iran or something. Okay, but they are anti-Semitic in giving this monster any kind of a hearing. His organization is evil, Any nation that puts up with this organization and gives ear to this organization is anti-Semitic and just as anti-Israel as the organization is.
Yeah, and I want to read, in their own words a little bit, and yeah, we'll talk about their founder later on in the show. But this is from the About Us section of the Hind Rajab Foundation website. The Hind Rajab Foundation is a branch of the March 30 movement, mainly dedicated to the quest for justice in response to the crimes against humanity, war crimes, and human rights violations perpetrated by the Israeli state against Palestinians. Established during the ongoing Gaza genocide, our foundation honors the memory of Hind Rajab and all those who have perished or suffered under the Israeli genocidal campaigns. First of all, well, that's a pause from the reading. This is they only use the word genocide twice in there. And for people who don't remember who Hind Rajab is, this was one of the greatest successes of the Palestinians during this war. This was a 5-year-old girl who got killed, and this story got a lot of attention. As I've said on the show, the only thing that Palestinians love more than dead Israelis is dead Palestinian children. And the reason for that is because they know that there's nothing better for the part of the propaganda machine, their propaganda machine that is in the West, like the Hind Rajab Foundation, that there's nothing better in the sense of, you know, they talk about death toll numbers and they talk specifically about women and children, and having an actual individual face, I think adds to that. So yeah, I have no doubt the founder of
They
this
intentionally
organization.
put their women and children at risk. They
Yeah.
intentionally use hospitals, schools. They intentionally use, they don't even wear uniforms. So they are responsible for the death of their own children. And if the IDF happens to, and this is going to happen in war, if the IDF is responsible for the death of a child, which is what they want, as you point out, it's their explicit policy to make that happen, then they can blame Israel. And now consider just how warped the minds, as I keep saying, it's the Western governments. It's the quote, comparatively more civilized governments. It's places like Belgium. It's places like Brazil. We can go down the list: Spain, Ireland, Norway, Indonesia, I guess the Maldives Islands, et cetera, et cetera. There are these countries are the ones who are, in my view, morally culpable because they give this guy life and sanction, and or this organization life and sanction. But think how warped their mind is that they can't. That they're sucked in to this, show picture of dead child. Okay, Israel is obviously evil because there's a dead child. No, that is the result of Hamas's explicit policy. That's what Hamas obviously wants.
I mean, part of the story with Hind Rajab herself was that it was more than a picture. It was the fact that the family was there, and another girl called the Red Crescent and was killed, and then Hind herself was on the phone with the Red Crescent. But a lot of it also makes you wonder. We know that Palestinians want their children dead, and then to be able to show the West that those children are dead, and to blame Israel. So you have to wonder to what extent whatever Israeli operation presumably was the one that got her killed, to what extent the Palestinians pushed for it on purpose to get her killed. But that is speculation, and there's no reason to.
All of it is.
Yeah.
All of it is. From October 7th forward, it's been an effort to create that picture, that context, everything they've done, every RPG that they've launched from a residential area in Gaza has been designed. Every time they use a hospital, that has been their intent and purpose, quite obviously. And like I say, any nation that gets sucked into this organization's BS, they're the ones who really are. Their anti-Semitism is what I find really disturbing. Of course, these monstrous, mentally warped by Islam, Hamas and Hezbollah people, you're going to hear all kinds of monstrous things from them. We should expect it from a terrorist. But governments giving them ear, that is truly problematic, disturbing, and what I find most offensive, actually.
Yeah. Now, I titled this episode "The Hind Rajab Foundation's Plan to Round Up Jews Worldwide," which you would think is a bit of a stretch, considering their what it is that they're actually doing at the moment. So, um, I want to read the next paragraph. Actually, before I read the next paragraph, I want to thank Jonathan for the super chat. And I want to thank Christian for the super chat. Yeah, Christian puts it perfectly. Hind Rajab, an innocent little girl, died because of the terrorists. In a rational world, a foundation named after her would be hunting the real culprits, the Islamic terrorists. And ironically, the leader of Hind Rajab would be high up on that list, but we'll get to that
Get to
in a
him in a
second.
minute.
Because I do want to read this second or some of this second paragraph, which I will do now. Beyond our legal efforts, we are committed to raising global awareness about the ongoing injustices faced by Palestinians. Uh, our campaigns aim to confront and dismantle the narratives that obscure the reality of these crimes, ensuring that the voices of the victims are heard and remembered. All right, that's not what I was going for, but where was this paragraph? Oh, I skipped one. That's why. Our core mission, this is the second paragraph, what I just read was the third. Our core mission is to actively pursue legal action against those responsible for these atrocities, including perpetrators, accomplices, and inciters of violence against Palestinians. What does that mean, inciters of violence? Who falls under the category? And and when we talk about the founder of this organization, I think we'll understand more where he's probably coming from. But is this channel inciters of violence? Is any news channel that does not do what, let's say, the BBC does, although there have been those who claim that the BBC is pro-Israel. What is who exactly is are these people planning to round up?
Well, it would certainly include us. I mean, we're inciting we're inciting violence against evil terrorists who all chimed in after the atrocities perpetrated by Hamas and Palestinian civilians, quote, civilians, by the way, on October 7th. Vicious atrocities and another aggressive attack on Israel. Now, uh, insiders of violence, perpetrators, well, of course, that would mean any IDF soldier. I guess anyone else who's supporting any, and worldwide, anyone who just takes a Zionist position. I guess secular Zionists who advocate for Israel's defense, like we do, we're on the list. We incite violence against. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, officially in favor of killing every goddamn terrorist Israel or America could get their hands on. Okay, if you call that, is this incitement to violence? Okay, that's me, includes me, the organization out there. You have a large net to cast. You have a lot there. I'm not alone among Americans, fortunately. Unfortunately, there's a tremendous rise in anti-Israel and anti-Semitism attitudes, even in my country, which I thought, America was a comparatively safe place for Jews. I've learned otherwise, much to my grief and disappointment in recent months. But I'll tell you, there are a lot of Americans who do support Israel and who are, in effect, quote, inciting violence against these terrorists. And let us hope that that includes the incoming president, Donald Trump. I don't. It's hard to know what Trump will do, frankly. But to the extent that he's doing, I guess the entire U.S. administration will be insiders of violence. Trump says they'll be held to pay if the hostages are still there, and that's 1 week away now. I'm hoping that they'll be held to pay if the hostages are still there, and he really means it. But of course, Trump is very hard to predict. I'm not sure where it will go, but presumably held to pay coming from the incoming president of the United States is clear inciting the violence. So what?
It's not just Trump. They
Trump's
go
on the
after
list?
Biden. Remember, these people think that the U.S. is pro-Israel under Biden. So, yeah, and why? What makes these people think, okay, we can do this and get away with it? Well, what makes them think they can do this and get away with it is what they've seen up until now, historically, but certainly since October 7th. They are out there. Look, in the inciters of violence against Palestinians category, you can also round up everybody who goes on a pro-Israel protest in the center of London. But what inspires organizations like that is to see that many, many thousands can go out to the streets of London, celebrate terrorism, celebrate terrorists, celebrate. They were celebrating October 7th on the streets of London, and of course, the sky doesn't want them, those people arrested. And it sends a message. If Western countries say you can go out, you can celebrate terrorists, you can express support for terrorism, you can, in various ways, to a certain degree, be involved in the efforts. And this guy certainly has been involved in terrorist efforts against Israel. Then they will undoubtedly take it further as they are now. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. James, do you want to talk about the founder of this organization, or do you have anything else to say before we go to the founder?
No, I don't. Though learning just a few details about the founder of this organization, it makes it clear this guy's a terrorist. This guy returned, 20 years ago, this guy returned to Lebanon saying, "This could be it, folks. I'm going down for the fight. This could be the last time you hear from me, but I'm going to fight." And he is a terrorist. He is an outright terrorist. He is someone who has, for decades, incited violence against Israel. Now, should he? It's funny the way he talks about getting the perpetrators of or insiders of violence against Palestinians. This guy has been inciting violence against Israel and Jews for decades. For decades.
Yeah.
This guy's closely associated with, works with, and wanted to go fight, and presumably did fight the terrorist fight. Full stop, terrorist is what he is.
Yeah, yeah, he's not just a supporter of terrorism, as many people are, especially people who we talk about on this channel. But he actually did in 2006, after Hezbollah launched a war against Israel, said, "I am going back to Lebanon." He's from Lebanon. "I'm going back there, and I'm going there to fight." And he has also expressed support for terrorist attacks, and like right after a terrorist attack, come out and express his support for it. So. Yeah, and look, he's a despicable fellow, so I don't know if people want to do this, but there are plenty of interviews with him online, and you can see, and many of them, of course, from the last week or so when Hind Rajab became well known because of the incident in Brazil. And yeah, if you see the way this guy talks, it is very, very clear. I'm always kind of trying to listen out to when is he going to slip and instead of Zionist say what he really thinks. But even when he says things the way he chooses to say things, it is clear he is very proud of this moment where he is actually getting Jews afraid to go places around the world, afraid to travel, afraid to speak up. And interestingly, one of his complaints recently was, a lot of the information that Hind Rajab Foundation works with is social media posts by IDF. And so Israel has told the IDF soldiers, "Stop doing this, you will get in trouble." And he thinks, oh, well, why don't they tell them to stop the war crimes instead of stopping filming themselves? First of all, yeah, if you're a soldier, you should not be posting things that identify you, because you absolutely should be proud of what you're doing. But
Right. But don't
realize the world that we live in. Somebody will come after you, and it could be legally, and it could just be, you could just get killed by somebody when you travel.
anyone who would dox an IDF soldier, I find despicable because there is such violent hatred around the world and in so many countries against Jews and Israel in general. No, and my friends who've been in the IDF, please protect your own privacy. But I mean, just look at this. This guy's organization is going out. Look at the wide scope that they're going after here in terms of Israelis. That's what he wants. He wants a yellow star, just like the Nazis put, in Nazi Germany. What he wants is you to mark off all Israelis. And by going after IDF soldiers, that's in effect what you're doing. Most Israelis, those who've lived in Israel, have been members of the IDF. So they can't go anywhere. They can't travel anywhere. He wants a big yellow star on every Israeli that he could manage to sew it on. That's the way to look at it.
Yeah, yeah, and he wants to go that further step. I assume, and the further step that was taken after people had to
Indeed.
walk around with a yellow star.
Indeed.
Um, Yeah, should we talk a little bit more about him? I'm not sure if the details of his life are that interesting. Maybe I should go back and say when I talk about Belgium, of course, there's an asterisk. Not all Belgian people, just making sure. But yeah, it is a horrible country as Western countries go. Belgium is horrible in many many ways, and the fact is, that's why it attracts people like this guy, because he knows, as a terrorist, he's welcome there. He's welcome there openly, not welcome there as, you just don't stand out or anything. He's actually celebrated to an extent in a place like Belgium.
It's frightening. That's utterly frightening in a comparatively civilized country. You know, Uh, uh, Belgium, has been victimized tremendously by Germany over the last century or so in wars, and they should, as victims of, say, the Nazis or victims earlier of Kaiser's Germany in such a horrible way, they should appreciate, but they don't. In fact, every civilized nation. Let me extend this out to every nation in Europe. What lesson didn't sink with the Nazis when they let, in effect, an anti-Semitic monster like this have a platform, or give this organization of his a platform or a hearing at all? I mean, these people shouldn't be given the time of day. These are the people that should be marked out with a big T on there. Yeah, I mean, this guy has advocated for terrorism, and this is the guy who should be persona non grata in any civilized nation, not former members of the IDF, and I don't care how high their rank is.
Um, yeah, I had to unmute, but there was a story very recently, last week, that he has filed a complaint against an Israeli minister following a tweet at him. This is Amichai Shikli, a minister for something, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of ministers in the Israeli government. I don't follow what they all do. He basically replied to Diab Abu Jaja, the founder of Hind Rajab, saying, "Hello to our human rights activist. Watch your pager," which I thought was beautiful, because what is the context here? I mean, pagers were, again, the most targeted attack in the history of warfare, targeting only combatants. So yeah, the implication is we, assume you might still be involved in some extracurricular activities that you have bragged about in the past. And if you have, you might have that kind of pager. This is obviously not a threat in any way, although I'm not sure I think Israel would be necessarily wrong in actively pursuing these people, but it's not a threat. And yet he filed a lawsuit, which tells you a lot. This is a joke by somebody on Twitter, and this organization is going after that person. So
Unbelievable. So he's got free speech to call for to call for violence against Israel, and but someone who defends Israel, they have no free speech to joke about him. And he regards, I guess, by implication, that even a verbal joke or verbal advocacy of the pager attack is somehow itself a war crime. Somehow itself needs to be suppressed. That shows you just how pro human rights, pro liberty, and how in this quote debate, they're eager to rip tongues out rather than have any kind of discussion, because they know that's why the lies. This is why, actually, even as you say, the BBC or the Guardian or the New York Times, as bad as wicked as they are, that's what's. The ironies here pile up, don't they? Uh, if you're not, as you point out, these people are probably not even good enough for him. For as far as he's concerned, the BBC is probably an inciter of violence against Israel. But here he is, eager to rip the tongues out of anyone who might object. And if anything, the Patriot attack has raised the standards, and I put that in quotes, because I don't think Israel should have to be that targeted. They should not have to be. But in terms of the fighting of war, Israel has made it, has changed the standard. And I was going to be interesting to see the next time there is a war, because of course there will be a war somewhere else, and they will not fight the war. And the world will cheer on the defenders, and they will not require of them to be as targeted and specific as that pager attack was. And so anything less than that, so if that pager attack was wrong, can you imagine any normal course of a war? In any normal course of a war, they'd all be war criminals in his mind. So there's no consistent thinking here. There's no consistent morality here.
Well, there
And
is consistent thinking in that anything the Jews do is genocide, and anything they do other than die, we should fight against. And of course, this is what that side of the war does. Now, as for another war, yeah, I think that's coming soon, in part because Israel appears to be about to sign its surrender agreement with Hamas. In By the way, this is for people who are super optimistic about Trump, and I have to say, again, I'm going to be celebrating when Biden is gone, but Trump is pushing for this, and he's pushing hard, and he is more convincing than Biden when he pushes for something. So, yeah, if this happens, this guarantees Hamas stays in power. They've lost some people. They will easily recruit some more. They will be in charge of the what I assume is going to be the largest by far per capita, campaign of so-called humanitarian aid, which of course will give them tremendous power, and they will have learned their lessons from how they launched this war and implement them when they launch the next one in terms of being able to ensure their survival. The fact that Hamas after October 7th is going to be Israel is going to officially say, we are okay with you existing, is a complete surrender, complete capitulation, guarantees that the next war is coming soon, and that the most evil people in the world will be celebrating this. And I hope this is not Trump's present for us when he joins, when he takes over the White House. And I hope the reports are wrong, and what we're actually going to see on January 20th is um,
Hell to
really
pay.
hell to pay in Gaza. Yeah, hell to pay in
Right,
Gaza, hell to pay in Iran, hell to pay in
right.
Yemen. But I do fear that what we're going to see
Well,
is
you're absolutely right. Trump would prefer to avoid the issue, have the hostages released so he can say, see how tough I am, and then make him look really, really tough. But no, it's horrific, but the days are counting, and so let's hope that Israel doesn't sign what you, I think, rightly describe as a surrender, because it will only tee up more atrocities, more intifada, more global intifada, Western nations too. Israel is fighting the war for civilization. They're the ones who endure October 7th and intifadas, and civilians getting blown up on buses in the West Bank, or October 7th coming in from Gaza. But you know something? We've seen the advocacy for globalizing the intifada. We've seen it in part happen in Western nations. So Western nations, open your eyes, figure out what's really going on, grow a pair, and treat organizations and its leader like this, like the terrorist advocacy organizations they clearly are.
absolutely. I second that. I'm sure we're not going to see that happening, but I hope I'm wrong. And of course, unfortunately, I think we will continue to cover the Hind Rajab Foundation because I'm sure they will continue to do damage. Somebody else we keep covering because he's doing damage, probably not as much as he would like to, is Owen Jones. A few weeks ago, we talked about his investigative journalism piece on the BBC. That was hilarious in a sense, and terrifying in another sense. I recommend people go back and watch that. But we're going to talk about the star of that investigation piece, somebody who works at the BBC and his last name. Uh, now considering suing Owen Jones. Let's hope that happens. It's about time. Thanks, James. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes on the reality show.
Be safe.